I have the high ground.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Ash Crossan, and there has been so much Star Wars news this week and so much yelling back and forth online. So we're going to turn this video into a bit of a Star Wars therapy session. I hope that's okay. I'm joined by fellow Porg Nation member and host of Obsessed Podcast and co-host of ForceCenter Podcast, writer, comedian, amazing person, Joseph Scrimshaw.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, did you like that intro?
I really did. I didn't say amazing person when you asked me how I wanted to be described, so the fact that you just offered that.
That's
very happy.
Rattling it off. That's improv right there. A little later on in the show, I'm going to have an exclusive interview with Mark Hamill, his thoughts on Alden Ehrenreich stepping into Harrison Ford's rather large shoes as Han Solo. Yeah, just for you guys. And at the end of the show, Joseph, I'm going to ask you what your most unpopular Star Wars opinion is, your hottest take. So keep that in mind, back of the head, for the rest of the show. But let's get to this week's topic. Game of Thrones creators are developing a new Star Wars film series. There are more Star Wars films coming. Lucasfilm announced on Tuesday that David Benioff and D.B. Weiss will write and produce these undetermined amount of movies. The series will exist separate from the main episodic Skywalker saga and the recently announced trilogy that Rian Johnson is also working on. There is so much Star Wars coming. No release dates have been set. They're probably really, really far off. Fans have very mixed reviews online. So this news came out 2 days ago. Have you been able to process your thoughts and feelings about this series? We don't know how many.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to say trilogy because I feel like we're so used to thinking in trilogies.
A lot of people have said trilogy. And it's just some movies. It might be 87. It might be 1.5. Might be like, nah, we're going to stop this one short in the middle.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. So I like that it's a little bit open-ended. I feel pretty good about processing my Star Wars feelings because I do it a lot. I have so many.
This is all we do, yeah.
So I've learned to process them quickly. No, I am excited, but I am excited with caveats, like many people on the internet. I love Game of Thrones, but I agree with the criticism that they haven't always handled gender issues well on the show. And I do wish that Lucasfilm would announce some more films that are being helmed by women or people of color. So I have those caveats.
Yes.
But I am excited to see what these guys do with Star Wars.
Right. I mean, I think when it was announced, I was, of course, extremely excited. I love Game of Thrones. I'm excited for these guys to see what they could do. But agreed, like, I think the criticisms are totally valid. And I also don't think that it has to be so black and white. Like, you don't have to hate it or love it.
Yeah.
You can definitely love it and still be like, okay, yes, but.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. I think that's a good emotional state always for Star Wars. Is I'm excited, but.
I'm excited, but. I'm excited with concerns.
Yes.
And again, they are writing and producing. They're not necessarily directing the movies.
Right.
So hopefully this is the opportunity to bring in some different voices.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, and get some different perspectives. I think that would be great. But in terms of like what they're gonna do with it, the idea of that their skill sets are telling like big war stories through the very personal, that's really interesting when you're dealing with something that's called, Star Wars.
Star Wars, Wars of the Stars. Yeah, I saw a lot of people had already edited lightsabers into some of the sword fights that have happened in Game of Thrones, and you're watching that, and you're just like, you're watching the Brienne and Arya kind of going head to head, and flipping around their swords and stuff, and I'm like, yes, we could get the best lightsaber battle we've ever seen in whatever movie.
Yeah, maybe one of the movies is just one long lightsaber battle, just 2.5 hour lightsaber battle.
2.5 hours. But I think it raises a lot of questions in that they are very good, most would say, I think, at adapting material that already exists.
Yeah.
Do you think that they will do that? Do you want to see that, or do you want to see them do something that doesn't exist, like maybe something in the EU, or?
Yeah, I think that they're going to play around in the Old Republic time frame that's been well established. That's your natural barf reaction.
No,
why do you barf at Old Republic?
No, I think that is a genius idea, by the way. I love like the Knights of the Old Republic era. I absolutely think they should do that. It's just whenever anything is announced, the entire internet is like, Knights of the Old Republic. And I'm like, oh my God.
I understand. I don't think Rian Johnson's doing anything with Knights of the Old Republic or the Old Republic. Knights of the Old Republic is the game, and that would be a direct adaptation, and I think that's the interesting thing. Because Iger, when he was announcing this, said that they were interested in a specific time frame.
Right.
That's the most obvious time frame where it's an easy sell, where you just go to the world, especially, people who've been Star Wars fans for a long time. It's like, would you like to see hundreds of Jedi and hundreds of Sith fight? And, like, people are like, Please?
It would,
yeah,
yes.
And these are the perfect people to do that. It's the most obvious thing for them to do outside of the Skywalker trilogy. So I think that's why the whole internet is immediately like, Old Republic, and then you are immediately, But I think this is the time. I think the big question is, are they going to adapt stuff from the narrative that's been established in the video games and the books? Are they just going to be like, it's Jedi, it's Sith, it's thousands of years ago, they're fighting?
I feel like they will... I think it's going to be like a loose adaptation. Like, I don't think they're going to verbatim try to take anything.
Yeah, I think they'll do an exact video game.
Shot for shot.
Scenes. Yep.
Like, shot for shot.
Exactly. At some points, the movie will, like, freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of lag.
As it's processing, yeah.
Now, a lot of people were also talking about, because of Game of Thrones and the nudity and the violence and the sex and all of that, whether or not Star Wars will ever be R-rated, or if it should be R-rated. What are your thoughts?
I see no reason to make an R-rated Star Wars film.
I agree with you.
Yeah, because they've always been able to handle adult content without being graphic. I tweeted about this, but like you look at something like Revenge of the Sith, where Anakin goes to the dark side and murders children, chokes his wife, gets his limbs cut off by his best friend, then burns in a river of flames. Like, we can have dark stuff, and it works. Even in The Force Awakens, where everybody's like, this is a fun family film that we all go to during the holiday times, where a son brutally murders his father, who's one of the most popular characters ever. Then he falls into a shaft, and the world explodes into a sun. For families.
Right, and it's, same thing with Rogue One. Like, I think it maybe is harder for kids to wrap their head around the fact that everyone in that movie just dies at the end, but that is what happens.
Yeah, Star Wars has a special thing. I'm not a parent, but I've talked to parents a lot. Like, for a while there was like, they're like Darth Vader pillows, and he's like a mass murderer. And every time I ask a parent, like, how do you feel about it? And like, it's just an opportunity to talk to my kids. So I feel like Star Wars exists in this space where it is this myth, it is this parable, where you can use it as a way to deal with these darker questions without getting super graphic about it.
Right. Because there's no, aside from the scene in the Mos Eisley Cantina, I don't think there's any blood in Star Wars at all. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, there's some blood on Zev Senesca's face, Rogue 2, when he dies in Empire Strikes Back. But just a little bit.
Just a little bit. That's all they have.
Just a fleck of Zev. That's all for blood.
No, and it's like, I assume you saw Star Wars as a child, and it wasn't like last year you saw it for the first time. But I watched it as a kid, and I never knew that there were these darker themes into it until you get older and you watch it back and you're like, oh, this is intense.
Yeah. And
I was just like, space.
Yeah.
And princess.
Yeah, and I just don't think we need gore, and certainly not nudity. I think we could even, if you wanted to get more sexy with Star Wars has always had romance, but it's been very chaste. But I think if you wanted to, some of the books, there's like sex. But I still think you could shoot it in a way that's like, hey, they're having sex over there.
Right.
But not in a, like, let's really zoom in on these Jedi hips. I don't think that's necessary.
No, and in The Last Jedi, Maz Kanata straight up is like, I hooked up with the Codebreaker, Justin Theroux.
Yes, exactly.
And we don't need to see it. Please, we don't need to see it.
There's a brief pause where Rian Johnson allows us to picture it ourselves. Because there's just that beat afterwards where Finn and Rose are like, let me imagine that.
Sometimes the unknown is even sexier than anything we could have possibly seen. So we've kind of touched on what you would want to see in these potential films. And by the way, they never even exclusively said, like, they're theatrical. I mean, I assume they are, and that's the safest bet, but it could be like, they're working on this streaming service. What if they just drop like a bunch of movies on there?
Wow, that would be amazing if it was like, oh, and by the way, they're not even in the movie theater. Straight to DVD. Star Wars, I don't think that will ever happen. I feel like it's such a money opportunity to put them in theaters. I do think whatever series they're working on next will be a streaming service thing. That's such a good way to get everyone into it. Oh, yeah. I mean, and then they announced, I think in that same meeting, that they've got multiple television shows in development for that streaming service, so it's coming for sure.
Do you feel like with all of these announcements, we're probably going to get one by the time this video is online? We're going to get another something. Do you feel like there is Star Wars fatigue, too much Star Wars? Do you feel oversaturated by it?
No, not at all, because I think we are getting this weird perception that there's way too much Star Wars because we're getting these announcements. And I think we're getting them at what I call IgerCon, which is basically just Bob Iger's talking to investors. So I think we're strangely getting these announcements whenever Bob Iger wants to tell people with money what they're making. we're not getting them when fans necessarily need to hear them. So it sounds like, what, 2 more trilogies, 8 TV shows, but the reality is, Han Solo's going to come out, Rebels TV show is going to be off the air, and then it's going to be a year and a half until Episode 9. And I swear, when December comes, and there's no new Star Wars movie like there has been for the last 3 years, everybody's going to be like, where's Star Wars?
Where's Star Wars?
There's not enough Star Wars.
That is sad to me. Like, there's going to be nothing in December. There's no celebration this year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah. So right now it maybe feels like oversaturation because we're getting an announcement and news every day, but I think it's going to
That's
cool
really
off.
true. And I also think it's because there's so much unknown. Like, we have no idea what's happening beyond Episode 9 as far as what the films are going to be. We just know that they exist. Like, we know there's stuff coming in the pipeline, but we don't know what it is. So I feel like it's also kind of hard to wrap your head around it because you're like, I don't know what's coming at all.
Yeah, and you have no idea the release dates, if they'd be staggered, like it's going to be a Rian Johnson movie, then a Dan and Dave Game of Thrones creators movie.
Go
like,
between the two?
Yeah, we have to do little dances to try to figure out what's it going to look like.
Yeah. Is there anything in the like Dan, Dave, D.B. Weiss.
The double Ds,
The double Ds. That's R-rated Star Wars.
Yeah, right.
That you would not want to see.
I don't want grim, dark Star Wars. Now, I don't think that Game of Thrones does this. It certainly has the potential to do it. And it has the potential when you get into, like, if it's Jedi and it's Sith and it's all the real serious stuff and cool battles and people in armor, it would get, like, real serious. And suddenly we would have, like, all brooding, chiseled Jedi Knights doing, like, Jedi CrossFit and everything's very serious. That's the only thing I don't want. I don't want it to get into kind of like the tone that some of the DC films have had. Some of the Batman, Superman. I think it's important that Star Wars always balances cool, Darth Vader walked down a hallway and slaughtered rebels with a little bit of sense of like fun and whimsy.
Right. I feel like I'm kind of craving like a very bright, colorful Star Wars film.
Yeah.
Like, because I feel like when those Han Solo character posters came out, I was like, these are so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and it's not that I have any hate towards the Han Solo movie, I'm very excited for it, but I just feel like the tone from the posters to the trailer is so different. Like the trailer is very dark Star Wars, like we've seen, and I'm kind of craving something bright, Thor Ragnarok-y different in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I kind of hope we get that at some point.
Yeah, I would love that. And there's a part of me that feels like maybe the actual finished Solo film will be a little bit brighter.
Right.
Because, I mean, if you have a costume meeting, like, what should Lando wear? The yellowest shirt that could ever yellow.
That's so true.
At some point it will pop on screen, you know?
He is hashtag fashion goals. So is Kira.
He is. I know. It's
like,
just capes.
I don't really cosplay, but I think this is a good time to start with that.
I might just go to Comic-Con and just wear a cape and no other cosplay and just say, I'm from Star Wars.
Everyone will be like, yes. Everyone will tell you a different character,
it's
too.
Cape Guy.
Let's move on to the interview of the week. Every single episode, I will give you guys a Star Wars interview. It might be brand new, or it might be something from the depths of the ET vault, but either way, it'll be something that you can only find here on this show. Isn't that great?
It is.
So I talked to Mark Hamill on Monday night.
Oh, my God, that's amazing.
Pretty rad. And I asked him how he felt about the Han Solo movie. Obviously, he knows that character of Han Solo pretty well, and there's this 28-year-old kid stepping into those shoes, pretty big shoes. So I asked him his thoughts. Take a look.
The Star Wars divisiveness has switched over this morning to the Han Solo movie because the trailer came out this morning.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? What were your thoughts?
There's divisiveness?
Can you believe it?
You know, this is the only franchise where you go on Twitter and they say, if such and such happens, I am so out.
Yes.
So now they're speculating about things they don't want to see.
Mm-hmm.
It surprises me, but look, you can't please everybody. You just have to try and make the best story you can. I was sort of taken aback by it, but who knows? Not everybody likes broccoli. Some people like carrots or Brussels sprouts better. So, you know, that's just the way life is.
Would you have advice for this Alden Ehrenreich who's stepping into these? He can't win,
No.
I mean.
Well, of course. I mean, anybody that plays a young anything, like when they did the young Indian, the prequel to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid,
right.
and Tom Berenger and William Catt were great. But they said, oh, well, he's not like Robert Redford, he's not like Paul Newman. that's already hard. But the trailer looks fantastic. I don't know what anybody's complaining about. The trailer makes you want to see the movie, and I'm dying to see it, so it works.
So you're in.
Of course.
He's right. Like, Alden Ehrenreich is kind of damned if he does an imitation of Harrison Ford, and damned if he doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, either way, he's under the biggest microscope possible. Like,
yeah. Just like, hey, why don't you take all of these decades of not Han Solo, but Harrison Ford? Like, people are asking him to play Harrison Ford. I just need him to be Han Solo. And young Han Solo.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you, were you at Star Wars Celebration Europe by any chance?
I was not.
Did you see the footage where he's like on the stage? Because he, to me, and I've said this in so many videos, so I'm sorry if you've watched all of them and I'm saying this again, but he was so charismatic and very Han to me. And there was a moment where he's talking about stepping on the Millennium Falcon, and he's like, I was stepping on the Falcon for the first time. And I'm like, oh my God, he said Falcon, just like Han Solo.
Yeah, he's
like,
so Han Solo. Yeah.
Like, I'm really into him.
Yeah.
And I feel like he doesn't need defending. It's like, I feel like the movie needs more defending than he does as the character.
I don't care if he sounds exactly like Harrison Ford. If he's got charm, if he's got charisma, great. I don't know why I can't stop talking about hips on this video, but if you watch the Han Solo teaser trailer, every profile shot, he's got Harrison Ford sort of like the hips, the posture, you know, like the energy.
You're right. There's the shot where he's talking to Emilia Clarke's character Kiera, and when she's like, I know what you are, or something like that, and he says, what's that? And I had it kind of paused on my computer while I was cutting a piece, and I looked over and I was like, Harrison, nope, that's Han Solo.
Yeah. So
that was the moment that really sold me. So what are your overall thoughts on the movie, and did the trailer and things that we've seen so far, now that stuff's starting to roll out, did that make you more excited, less excited, or just the same?
I'm really excited for it because I feel like Star Wars has always been about like the Force and the fate and the destiny, and then also you have sort of the Leia Rogue One world of the rebellion and responsibility and duty and government, and then you've got the scoundrel, the lucky guy, the gambler, the aliens, you know, and the rough and tumble world. And I feel like that big part of Star Wars that we haven't spent as much time with is being lifted out and given its whole entire movie. And it just looks like fun. It looks like it is based on the, original ideas behind Star Wars, which are like those adventure serials, Flash Gordon. It's like, well, I'm at a dive bar. Now I'm gambling. Now I'm at a fancy jazz bar. Now I'm, stealing from a train. Now I'm getting attacked by a space octopus. Like, and Lando's shirt is yellow. Just all these exciting, thrilling things.
Man, I really want a Lando movie now. Like, even just seeing Donald Glover as Lando, you're just like...
It is.
Because when the movie was announced, and I think we've talked about this before, is like, I didn't want to see the Kessel Run. I don't want to see the Life Death thing. I don't want to see the Losing the Falcon. Like, it's all these stories that I like to imagine in my head. But then you see the trailer and you're like, you know what? There's so many characters we haven't met. There's so many elements of this story that are a mystery in a good way.
Yeah.
So I'm really into the idea of it now.
Yeah, and just like, how does the Falcon get so dirty so fast is such a great internet meme and a true good question.
Like, honestly, what happened?
It's such a compelling mystery of like, what did they haul in that ship?
I hope it happens in the movie to the point where like Lando has to see the Falcon and is like, what have you done to my ship? Like, I know he says that in Empire as well. He like says some version of that, but I just want the full emotional reaction from Lando.
Yeah, like a big 360 walkthrough video.
Yeah, where he's just like, because what could have possibly happened?
Yeah, I think they hauled some more Rathars in there and they just rolled around.
They hauled
socks and
something.
takeout. Yeah, pizza boxes.
Oh my God.
Space pizza boxes. For sure. That's a bachelor ship.
Had an intergalactic kegger.
Yeah.
Now, Joseph,
yes.
I asked you at the beginning of the show what your most unpopular Star Wars opinion is, because I like to light up my own comments section. No, it can be something that's really, really hot take, or it can be something that's just kind of mild that most people just don't agree with.
Yeah. Well, look, I have so many. I am a walking unpopular Star Wars opinion because I appreciate the prequels. But I'll pick one specific moment from the prequels that a lot of people make fun of. I understand why, but I think it's good. I think it works. I think when Obi-Wan Kenobi declares that he has the high ground and that is tactical advantage that Anakin should not try to overcome, I think that's great.
Why do you think it's great?
Because the story of that fight is that Obi-Wan has to defeat Anakin and he has to mess him up real bad. And there also has to be a narrative reason why Obi-Wan wins. So we need a tactical reason that Obi-Wan can say to Anakin, hey, here's a pause in the fight. It's not just, oh, sorry, I cut your legs off. It has to be a tactical reason of like, Anakin, I have some sort of tactical advantage, and don't let your hubris allow you to fall to my confidence and wisdom, because that's the advantage that Obi-Wan has. So while I understand people are like, what? Anytime that anybody is on, like, you pull up like a little step stool and you stand on that and then you can beat Darth Vader because you have the high ground, I understand the jokes. But I think from a storytelling point of view, it allows you to appreciate that Obi-Wan is the smart one, he is the calm one, he is the wise one.
Yeah.
And Anakin is full of his anger and his fear and the doubt. And, you know, I have a beat to pause in the story, and then off come the legs. And
I think that's really well explained. I don't hate that moment at all. I think the meme is like hilarious whenever people just insert it into conversation. They're like, the high ground, it's funny. It makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Prequel memes are the best. Yeah. But I never had a problem with that moment.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, a lot of people say, that makes no sense. Yeah.
No, I could pick a lot of other lines from the same movie that I would rather.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I understand.
But, you know. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming in.
Absolutely.
Let everyone know where they can find you, because I was on your podcast.
That's right.
Today.
Yeah.
And we talk about porgs and stuff.
Yeah, we talk about porgs and good, bad movies. So I have a podcast called Obsessed that you can find on my website at josephscrimshaw.com. People just talk about things they love a lot. Ash talked about all the good, bad movies that she liked.
I did.
I've also got my Star Wars podcast, ForceCenter. And you can find out all my comedy albums, all my live shows at josephscrimshaw.com.
Awesome. Well, you guys, let us know what you think about these Game of Thrones, Star Wars movies. I don't really know what to call them at this point, so I'm just winging it. You can let us know in the comments, and you can always tweet us. Our handles are going to be right here for you. I do this every time. It's like kind of a bit now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next week.